Hey everybody, this is Hardway. This is rant number 3 on my road trip back home. I'm coming back, returning from leave. I was back home in Ohio. I'm going back to Fort Riley, Kansas. It's about a 12-hour road trip, and these rants are how I have chosen to entertain myself on this road trip. So this is rant number 3. And in this one, I wanted to talk about what I call the Bungie dilemma. The thing with Bungie, like a lot of times, there's a lot of people on the internet that want Halo to go back to how it used to be prior to Reach, when it was at the peak of its success and popularity. And a lot of times people conflate that with wanting Bungie to make Halo again. And they're just like, yeah, Bungie's the best Halo developer. I wish we could just bring them back. And I just like, whoa, dude, pump the brakes. Because, yes, they made the most successful Halo games, but they were not without fault. Like, I don't want Bungie anywhere near Halo ever again. Because they got steadily worse as time went on making Halo. Their decisions were, I think, a lot of times just malicious towards the people that were actually good at the game and cared the most about the game. I think Bungie was... I honestly think that they resented the competitive community and basically resented anybody that was better than them at the game. That's the way they came across, and their decisions in game mechanics certainly reflect that, and I will back that up throughout the course of this rant. But Bungie as a studio, while extremely talented, were just a bunch of Melvins, man. Like they were bad at the game. And then they wouldn't just come to terms with that and still make like a fair game that rewarded the best players. Instead, they changed the game to punish certain habits that good players had and to punish preferences that they had. And so they changed the game to shrink the gap between good and average. And I don't know why. I don't know why somebody would be motivated to do that. That just seems like Melvin behavior to me. Spiteful, resentful behavior born out of failure. That's the way I see it. So starting with Halo 1. First of all, the thing with Halo 1, I'm mostly just talking about multiplayer here. I fully acknowledge that Bungie made incredible campaigns, and as far as features go, they got better over time. They innovated the industry with things like matchmaking, friends lists integrated into the game, theater, forge, file share. Like, that can never be taken away from them. That was incredible what they were able to do, and they absolutely pushed the industry forward. What this rant is focused on is multiplayer and gameplay mechanics. And the reason I call it the dilemma is because I'm weighing how polished and feature complete and innovative their games are against the degradation of their gameplay mechanics over time. That's why it's a dilemma. But this rant will be focusing on the negatives, in response to people pining for the days of Bungie. I want to explain why that's a bad thing, why we don't ever want them again. Alright, so starting with Halo 1. The thing that I think gets overlooked a lot with Halo 1 is the crew that made the game was so much smaller than any other Halo game that came after it. So it was the vision of just fewer people. John Howard, Hardy LaBelle, folks like that. So I think there was less decision making by committee. There was less compromise. You had a purer vision, and and that's why it worked out so well. I think a lot of it was happy accident, but some of that's up for debate. Like how strong the pistol ended up being. I've heard rumors that was like a last second change that John Howard swooped in and made before the game shipped to make the pistol a 3-shot kill. I've heard various things about quick camo, whether or not it's a glitch or an intention. I've heard Hardy LaBelle talk about how he definitely intended for certain weapons to recloak faster than others. But the way it ended up playing out, like firing a rocket, switching to AR, and how quickly you could recloak, I don't know that was their intention. If they were doing that in their play tests, and it's undeniable that it ended up being good for gameplay. You know, you actually have a reason to drop your pistol. But I don't know that that's what they wanted to do or not. I certainly know double melees and backpack reloading were a glitch. Like a lot of the cool things about Halo 1, sharing power-ups, I don't know that was intentional or not. But a lot of it could have been a happy accident. Who knows? And unfortunately, as their team size grew and other people became in charge, like Max Holberman and stuff like that, in Halo 2, they purposely did away with a lot of the things that we liked best about the game. I don't think they liked people timing weapons at all, which I don't get. Like the theme with Bungie is that they had such a backwards way of handling the things that they didn't like. They didn't like that good players were timing weapons. So instead of making this information available to everyone and empowering weaker players, they tried to confuse good players by changing the way the system works. You're not going to confuse good players. We're going to figure out how it works, and then we're going to exploit it. You're just making it more complicated for newer, worse players to know what the hell's going on. So, and this is my biggest problem with Halo 2, is the weapon respawn system. They made it so a weapon will not come back until it is emptied and then dropped. So you can hold on to an empty weapon until you're in position to grab it again, which is just so stupid. Like, look no further than Colossus Team Slayer. Pulling the snipe, like the meta of that map is you fight for snipe at the beginning, you pull it back to a base, and you hold it in that base until you've used all the shots, and then you try to retake middle before you drop the sniper so that you can grab the new one, and then you pull it back to a base again. Like, that's how Colossus Team Slayer plays every single time. That map would be so much more dynamic if that snipe respawned statically every 2 minutes. It'd be so much less camping. Some teams don't even respawn the sniper. They just keep it, and they try to keep that guy alive with an empty sniper for the whole game. Like, it's just so dumb that they thought that they were gonna outsmart or trick good players. No, you're just making the meta at the high end of the spectrum bad. And so many stupid things were born out of that because their playtesting was clearly only played at an average at best level. So they never saw how the game would be played at a high level. Just shit that just seems obvious to people that know what they're doing was completely unaccounted for by Bungie in their playtests. Weapon respawn time is a perfect example of that. But yeah, coming out of Halo 2, so you lost that great weapon respawn system. Power-ups are dynamic now, so only the guy that's picking it up or the people that see him pick it up know when the hell it's coming back. And they changed around all the respawn times so that they were stupid. Like, the only one that makes sense is Beaver Creek's OS. Like, just for an example, just to evidence that Bungie was trying to mess with people that wanted to play the game at a high level. The respawn time for the Overshield on Ivory Tower is 1 minute and 23 seconds. Why? Why would you make that? if not to try to confuse people that were playing at a high level. That is the only reason that anybody would do that. It's just so stupid. Why? And that's just one example. They nerfed the utility weapon in the battle rifle to have a way longer time to kill. They didn't even freaking spawn you with a battle rifle. Default Halo 2, the way they launched the game and intended for it to be played, you spawned with an SMG, which took 8 years to kill anybody, and you had no map presence unless you're within 10 feet of them. So the people that had the BRs could just lock down a map. Like on lockout, if the other team gets BR and snipe control, they get control of the weapons, and they get you spawning in blue tower at bottom lift. Against a good team, you're not getting out of that for the rest of the game. You're stuck. You are absolutely stuck. You can't take the map back. It's just, and it's just so obvious that they didn't playtest at a high level, that they would launch the game with SMG starts and radar. The fact that radar is on by default. Like, could you imagine how good Halo would be right now if Bungie didn't set the precedent that radar should be on in matchmaking? Like, what if Halo 2 launched and radar was only on in free-for-all? We would not have ever had to deal with radar ever again if it weren't for that. We could have had like MLG light settings in matchmaking for over a decade now. But no, Bungie turned that shit on, and they set a precedent, and people got used to it, and people thought that's the way Halo should be played, even though it's clearly inferior. And it's just another example of them not knowing why their game's good, or how it plays at a high level. What drives me insane is that for Halo, if something works at a high level, it will also work at a low level. You can have fun. Like 4 noobs could load up Halo 1 and play competitive settings 2v2 on Battle Creek or something, and everybody's gonna have a good time. Whereas you get 4 pros playing Epitaph AR starts with radar on, nobody's gonna have a good time. It's awful. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't play you can't play casual settings at a high level, but you can play high level settings casually. And Bungie just never understood that. They kept trying to pervert and change the way the game would play at a high level. And then they weren't capable of testing their theories. It's just so freaking frustrating, man. So Halo 2 had all these changes away from what made Halo 1 good. The item respawns, the power of the weapons, the spawn system. You couldn't really influence your partner spawn in 2v2 anymore. God, there's so many other examples. Apparently nobody ever used the noob combo in their playtesting, because the tracking on that plasma pistol was insane, and then switched to a BR for an instant kill. Like that must have never happened once in their playtesting for them to launch the game like that, which is just mind-boggling to me. Their playtest must have just been people running around with dual SMGs like almost constantly. And then I'm trying to think of what else Halo 2 did to move away from Halo 1. Oh, melee lunge. Hey everybody, now when you melee somebody, the game will vacuum suck you into them. If you hit the melee button and they're anywhere on your screen, it'll just pull you into them. You don't have to aim your melees anymore. And they set that precedent, and we still deal with it to this day. We don't need it, man. We've never needed it. It is annoying. It creates like these people teleporting at you from like these ridiculous distances and barely having to aim. And so the close quarters gameplay of the Halo series is just so shallow ever since then. Like, at least Halo 2 had button combos, so you BXR and BXB, and you could crouch under melees and stuff. But Bungie being Bungie, they did away with that crap too as the series went on. Like, anything that added depth to the game from a gameplay perspective, they got rid of, like, systematically. Like, oh, if this is if this is a factor in high level games, then we need to get rid of it. Like, you can't crouch under melees in Halo 3. You can't BXR. You can't BXB. They watered down the game so much. You can't double shot. Like all the things that were important in Halo 2, they got rid of in 3. The BR is too strong from across the map, so now we're gonna put random spread on it so that it sucks at range and only the sniper is viable past a certain range. I mean, it's so annoying, man. Everything they've done to the series has just intentionally watered it down as it went. And then in their last game in Reach, it's like, apparently the Halo 3's BR wasn't random enough. So now we're gonna make the DMR, the utility weapon, have random bloom so that it punishes you when you fire it at max rate of fire. And they wanted you to like have trigger discipline and develop a cadence to shooting, which honestly, like, I don't really mind the principle of bloom, but it was executed so goddamn poorly that it's just mind-boggling to me that they actually released it in that state, especially after a beta, when people just screamed at them, hey, bloom sucks, get it out, we hate it. And they ignore all the feedback. Like, there's an infamous quote by, I think it was Lukums or something from Bungie, where he described feedback about bloom as wasted keystrokes from all the people that were telling him how much they didn't care, man. Bungie didn't listen to feedback. Look at Dan Bauer, Dan Bauer 91 on old Bungie.net, the Wambulance blog post they had about, they single out a member of the community who was an activist against random BR spread, and they actually like made fun of him in a blog post on their homepage for what? For presenting an argument against random BR spread and backing it up. And they go out of their way to try to publicly humiliate the guy. This is a fan of your freaking game that they're doing this to. He's not like a cheater. He's not anything. He's just presenting a logical argument against your design decision. Like, it just blows my mind how petty that they were. But so anyways, the bloom, it was implemented so poorly. Like, you could bloom out your reticle like crazy and just spam the hell out of it, but you weren't punished enough for it because it would only bloom so much, and you could still land shots when it's fully bloomed. Like, it was still like somewhat reliable if you're close enough that you didn't have to pace your shots the way they intended. They needed to bloom out more and reset faster. Like, the time to kill when you're shooting the weapon the way that it's supposed to be shot was way too long. It's like 1.6 second minimum or something like stupid long like that. Maybe longer. In a game with sprint and no stopping power, where you could just sprint around a corner if you get in trouble and you don't even get slowed down when you get shot. Like, the game was so freaking dumb. No bleed through on melees, so you could just sprint up to a guy who had already shot you 3 times and trade melees, and you're going to be on equal footing because his melee didn't bleed through your shields and kill you. Like, if a guy has 1% shield and you melee him, then all you have done is remove that 1% shield. So a melee against a guy with full shield and a melee against a guy with 1% shield are worth the exact same amount. Now take that retarded mechanic and combine it with sprint to where you don't get slowed down when you're building up to sprint. So you shoot a guy 3 times, he runs at you in melees, and you trade melees, you're on equal footing. It was called herpaderping, which I think is just the perfect name for something so fucking stupid. And that was just like the level of design that Bungie was at by the end of their time making Halo. There were no power-ups anymore. Like, they just completely did away. After making them worse with each version of the game, they just completely did away with them in Reach. Because now you get to spawn with camo now, teehee. If you don't want your invincibility button or your fly button, you can just have your be invisible button. I mean, it was just so dumb by the end of it. I neglected to mention in Halo 3 what they did to the overshield. It's a single layer, which is like 2.5 BR shots worth of damage you can absorb, which is like almost nothing. But when you pick it up, you're fucking invincible for 5 seconds. The only thing that can kill you is a backsmack. 5 seconds. That's a long time. So people aren't even using the overshield for the extra hit points. They're using it for the invincibility. So overshield will come up, and people will just camp next to it and wait for people to trap themselves, pushing for it. Like, it happened every time on Guardian. Like, anybody that knew how to play the game at all that spawned elbow at the beginning of a game on Guardian, they wouldn't grab the overshield until somebody pushed them. Cool gameplay, guys. Real fun. Like, you guys are professionals? How are you in charge of making the game when you're making decisions that are that bad? I don't get it. Like, they just got so much worse as time went on, and they don't catch enough shit for it. They really were making awful decisions by the end of their time making Halo. And so that's why I don't want Bungie to come back. Yes, they can present a super polished game with amazing innovative features, but their decisions, their intentional decisions that they never patched out of the game were so goddamn bad and indefensible. I'm glad they're gone, man. I can live without the features and the innovation if I can just get some fucking good Halo gameplay again. Anyways, that's my Bungie dilemma. That's how I feel people should think about Bungie before they long for them to come back to making Halo. As if Bungie's time making Destiny isn't enough to dissuade you from ever wanting them to have anything to do with Halo again. My God. Just if you're not in the know with how horribly bad Bungie has handled Destiny and just what they've become, what Bungie is now, I would recommend YouTubing some stuff. I would start with B. Dobbins videos. B. Dobbins FTW on YouTube. And just go back to Destiny. We'll go back to his old videos about Destiny 1 and how they cut DLC out of the game. And just get caught up on how shady and awful Bungie is now. And just get it out of your head that they should be making Halo. No. Good riddance. Good riddance, Bungie. Hard way out.